We just came off the Disney Wish for the second time on our 4-night itinerary out of Port Canaveral, and we were really surprised by how much has changed since our previous inaugural sailing in August of 2022. Hello everyone, my name is Josh, and welcome to Travel with Josh and Taylor, and today I'm going to give you our cruise review from the Disney Wish, a 4-night itinerary. This sailing was from May 6th to the 10th of 2024, and the Wish has been rotating between 3 and 4 night cruises, and we typically tend to avoid these shorter cruises only because we prefer longer sailings. And they tend to have a little bit more value for the money that you spend on them. If you're interested in booking a Disney cruise, make sure you email Taylor, or you can head on over to goldgellgetaways.com and start planning your next destination vacation or your Disney cruise today. And also, it's completely free, so why not take advantage of it in the first place? We would also love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on the Disney Wish, or even with Disney cruising, or maybe a cruise in general, so make sure you let us know down in the comments below. This was our second sailing on the Wish, our 8th Disney cruise, and our 22nd cruise overall. And I say that only to give you context that this review doesn't come from someone who's only sailed maybe once or twice, but comes from experience across several different ocean brands and river cruising. Now, the Wish is one of Disney Cruise Line's newest ships and was a big change from their legacy ships, the Magic, the Wonder, the Dream, and the Fantasy. There was a 10-year span between the Fantasy in 2012 and the Wish coming out in 2022. So the biggest change, though, wasn't necessarily the size. While the Wish is slightly larger, the actual biggest changes were the layout of the ship and the architectural design. Now, embarkation is pretty straightforward and is pretty standard across the cruise lines. You know, if you've done it once, you've done it many times before. But what makes Disney unique and more special is that there are loads of cast members around to help you and direct you. Now, bag drop is simple and straightforward, and we had an arrival time of around 1 p.m. We breezed right through check-in, right through security, and right up into the terminal, and then right onto the ship. And one of the best parts of a Disney cruise, especially on embarkation day, is when you board the ship because they announce your name.
Oh, introducing the Rippy family!
The last time that we sailed on the Wish was an inaugural sailing in August of 2022, and it was complete chaos. The line for guest services was by virtual queue only, which never really seemed to work for us properly. Every time we would get towards the front of the virtual queue, so down towards less than 10 people in front of you, it would kick us all the way back to the very end, which then would there would be like 100 people in front of you. It was really weird. You had to make a reservation to get into the Star Wars lounge, which kind of worked, but then kind of didn't, especially if you were with other people. And a lot of things just weren't really smooth and not what you would have expected on a Disney cruise or for a Disney cruise experience. Now, this sailing was very different, and we are so glad that it was. Guest services still had a long line, but that is typical on the first day, no matter what ship or cruise line that you're sailing with. They didn't have a virtual queue, which was really, really great. You could just kind of walk up and wait in line, and when it was your turn, you went up to the desk and talked to somebody. And once we stepped on board, we didn't have to rush around and go make dining reservations or try to figure out what the heck was going on with our Star Wars lounge reservation. So it was really great to just be able to step onto the ship, walk about, see some characters, and just explore a little bit. We did head to the buffet, and I mentioned this in almost every single embarkation day video that we make, that the buffet will be one of the busiest places to be on the entire ship, especially on embarkation day. It's just that it's like really the only place for people to go to. It's very easily accessible and people know about it. And that's really what all the crew members tell you to go to is the buffet. So be prepared, it's gonna be busy. But we still found that it was kind of nice. The food was good and it was fresh. I think something that's a little bit different is that on Disney Cruise Line, you have to hand your plate to a cast member behind where all the food's at. So it kind of cuts down on exposure to the food, with each guest. So it's kind of nice. So on the Disney Wish, you will find Coca-Cola products, including Coke Zero, which is really nice. I've become addicted. You might be too. So if you're wondering, it's included. And really in all of the up at the buffet, up at the pool deck, you'll find little Coke machines where you can just put a little paper cup in there, get your Coke, go back and sit down. Now, the food at the buffet is pretty good. I don't think that it's really right for you to kind of compare or say that it should be something like a high-end Vegas buffet. And you'll find that a lot of the options rotate out during the sailing. So you'll usually have some different food options to choose from throughout the length of your cruise, which is really great. Disney still does a dedicated muster drill, usually around 4 p.m., and everyone must attend and sit down. Now, I personally don't like this style. We prefer the Royal Caribbean style, where you kind of just show up to wherever your muster station's at, you scan your room key, they log that into the system, they will tell you a brief kind of little thing that, you know, in case there's an emergency, you'll come to this location, we will give you a, you know, flotation device, and you will wait, and then somebody will escort you to the boat. You know, regardless, whatever way you think is best, let's be honest, if the ship's going down, it's going to be complete and utter chaos. So the muster drill on Disney Cruise Line will probably last about 30 minutes, and we would recommend that you be some of the last people to arrive in order to be some of the first people to leave. Because if you think getting there early and sitting down, usually what they will do is funnel you to the back of whatever the room is, and you're going to be kind of trapped back there because they will let everybody leave kind of front to back. So show up last, you're going to have more time to be out and exploring the ship, and then you'll be the first people to leave, so you can head right up to the buffet or right up to the sail away party, which is what we're going to talk about next. No other cruise line has a sail away party like Disney does, and while it has changed slightly over the years, there's no better way to set sail than hanging out with Mickey and the gang. And this is something that no matter what cruise we're on, when it comes to Disney, no matter the itinerary, we are always up on the top deck with the sail away party because it's just so much fun. It gets you like in the mood and just ready to set sail and have a really great time and get to have all the magic that comes with Disney. So now it does get crowded up there. If you're looking to get a spot that's up close to the stage, you're going to want to get there a little bit early, but definitely, you know, all of the kind of space viewing area from the next deck up is usually pretty easy to get to, and it just makes for a lot of fun. And especially when you do the countdown, you hear the horn, it's one of the best ways to go. Now, there are some things that really set Disney apart, and one of those is the service on board. Disney does an exemplary job of always having a smile on their face and interacting with you while having that smile on their face. They will also go above and beyond to help you find whatever it is that you're looking for on the ship. Now, I'm not saying that other cruise lines don't do this, but Disney Cruise Line definitely sets a different standard when it comes to guest services on board their ships. Which takes me to the next part, which is talking about dining and the service, and more specifically, rotational dining. Disney is the only cruise line to use rotational dining at sea. It's very unique, it's effective, and it really ensures the quality control, quality assurance among their guests. Now, the Wish has 3 main dining rooms. You will rotate through them during your sailing. From 3 nights to 10 nights, you will continually rotate through each of them throughout the length of the cruise. Now, on the Wish, there's Arendelle, a Frozen-themed restaurant, the World of Marvel, a Marvel-themed restaurant, and 1923, which is themed after Walt Disney himself and all of the animation that they have created over the last 100 years. That's crazy to say. Disney will randomly assign you a rotation and a table number. Now, you can call Disney and request to have a specific rotation if you want to. People have done it before. And while they say that they will add that to your reservation, it's never a guarantee that it'll actually happen. So just be prepared to have a random assigned rotation. Now, what makes this really great though is that when you rotate each night, your dining team or your service team will go with you each and every night. And this is really cool because they really get to know you, you get to know them, and you end up having the same drink that you ordered on the first night at the table the next night, and so on until you order something different. So they really just try to, you know, make it a little bit more of a personal experience for you during your cruise. For this cruise, we started in the World of Marvel on embarkation day, then we went to Arendelle the second and the third night, and 1923 on our final night. Each night, our service team moved with us each time. Now, something that I do want to add though for this experience that has not happened to us before, and is something that you should be aware of, it could happen to you on your next Disney cruise. We had booked this cruise so last minute, only maybe like a month before the set sail date, and because of that, when you make requests like having a private table or something specific, they're not always going to be able to accommodate those requests because it's so late, right? They've kind of filled those open spots with other requests. And so for Taylor and I, when we got to the World of Marvel on that first night, we were actually seated with, I think it was 6 other people at the table. They were also travel agents. We did this cruise as a travel agent discounted rate, which was really great. But we were sat with other travel agents. Now, which was not a big deal whatsoever. Our service team that we had that first night was great. But when we showed up to Arendelle the next night, unbeknownst to us until we arrived, they had actually moved us to a private table. So this was not something that, they moved us because we're Travel with Josh and Taylor. It was simply a request that we made on the app before we set sail. They had a table open for us, and so they said, absolutely, we're going to move you in here. They just didn't tell us until we got to Arundel. So it was a little weird with our service team, and we kind of felt bad for our original team that we had on the first night, but just be aware that it can happen. I don't know if you decided that you want to go back to the other table. You could probably tell them that, and they would send you back to the other table, but there are different things that they will do. So if you want a private table, definitely request it. It's not guaranteed, but they will do their best to accommodate if they can. I've said this before, but your service team on Disney Cruise Line can really make or break your cruise. You're going to see them every single night. And it's unfortunate, but if you do end up with a team that's maybe a little slow or maybe not working very well together, it does kind of become your responsibility to let the head server know. And the head server is going to be somebody who's dressed a little bit differently than your service team. They're going to be walking through a larger section of the restaurant. Typically, they will introduce themselves the very first night, just so that you know who they are. But that's the person you're going to want to let know that maybe, hey, you'd like service to go a little bit faster, or maybe things just don't seem to be clicking. Let them know. They really want your experience to be absolutely excellent. That's what they're going to be asking for. Keep an eye out for that. We can argue about food quality and pricing of a Disney cruise all day long, but I don't think that you can deny how refreshing it is to just have that opportunity to change restaurants each and every night. And have a service team that goes with you, that's dedicated to you and making sure that you have a really, really great experience. How is the experience different on longer sailings when I'm going to the restaurant for a second time? Disney does a really great and brilliant job of that by kind of giving you a slightly different show the second time that you come in. Animator's Palette, I think, is a really great example of this. If you go there twice, the first night is going to be a little bit more of like a show. The second night that you go is going to be where you do animation. You get to draw your own character. They scan that into the computer. They put them up on the screens and they do this like big dance thing. It's really cool. So they do different things to try and make that experience still a little bit different. Even though you're in the same restaurant, it's refreshing to have a different experience. And speaking of the food quality, we find that Disney's food is pretty good, from the steaks and pastas to seafood dishes in the main restaurant. They were really great. And if you don't like something, you just let the team know. It's literally not a big deal whatsoever. Just let them know. They'll bring you something else. They want to make sure that your experience is really great. Now, I will say sometimes they can get a little pushy towards the end of the cruise when talking about the survey and wanting an excellent rating, but they do work really hard to make your cruise special when it comes to the dining room. And you are in control of that experience, so let them know. If there is something wrong or something you want different, let them know. That's what they're there for, is to make this the best. They want to be the best. They're Disney. They have a reputation to uphold, and they want to try and meet those standards. And with that being said, like trying to go above and beyond, this is something, of all the cruises that we've done, we don't see this on other cruise lines like Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, or Celebrity, which are all direct competitors of Disney as far as family cruise lines go. Now, I know that this dining portion that we're talking about, especially coming with Disney Cruise Line, can be a little bit confusing. But I assure you, once you get on board, if you do have questions or you feel like maybe something doesn't make sense, just go and ask a guest services or find somebody when you go to eat at the buffet, a cast member. They will be able to help you and tell you kind of what the whole process is and how things work. Something that we did not do on this cruise, but I do want to highlight real quick, is specialty dining. So not only does the Wish have, really great main dining room restaurants, but they also have two signature restaurants that you can take advantage of. This is Palo and Enchanté. Each are going to cost, roughly between $50 and $75 per person. The lower end being Palo, the upper end being Enchanté. And while we didn't do that on this sailing, you can watch many of our dining review videos from other cruises. You can watch our Enchanté video from the first Wish sailing that we did. It was excellent. We had a fantastic time. We would certainly do it again sometime later in the future. Yeah, it's really great. You're not going to be disappointed. I assure you of that. It is fantastic food and well worth it. Now, for breakfast, lunch, you might be wondering kind of what are the options. So first, there's always going to be the buffet, which is open for breakfast and lunch every day. But if you go between like 8 and 10 o'clock, which is what we found on the Wish, be prepared for a very busy kind of rush of people. You're going to have a hard time finding a seat to sit in. And the same goes for lunch between probably 12 and 1:30-ish. That kind of seems to be the rush time. It's a little bit different on a port day. The sea days are obviously a lot more busy because there's nowhere for people to go. But just be prepared that that is something that might be a little bit of a challenge for you, especially if you have a family with lots of kiddos. Trying to find a table to accommodate everybody might be difficult. Now, if you want to avoid the hustle and bustle of the buffet, you should try the main dining rooms. They're not all of them are not always open, but they usually have at least one that's open for breakfast and lunch. Sometimes it varies from breakfast to lunch. You know, you can just ask your dining team at that night whenever you're there for dinner. Ask them; they'll tell you what main dining room restaurants will be open, and you can go in, sit down. It's a much calmer experience. They'll give you a menu. You order off the menu. They'll bring you the food, and again, it's all included, so you don't have to worry about spending anything extra. Now, maybe you just want to sit in the room and relax, and I absolutely love this about Disney Cruise Line. It's included, right? Room service for you to have food in the morning or at lunch or late night or midday, whenever you want, is included, which is just absolutely fantastic. Now, we didn't, again, I don't think we really took advantage of it on this sailing because it was just so short, but I think there's like nothing better for me when we do a Disney cruise and we have a balcony room to order coffee and some food in the morning and just sit down and eat that out on the balcony, watching the sunrise, listening to the waves. It's really, really great. It's an awesome experience, and you should absolutely try it because, again, it's included. Now, they do encourage you to leave a tip on top of that. So, you know, essentially, like when they show up, it's going to say a zero balance due, and then you can add, like, you know, a tip on there for the person who's bringing you the food. So we always do that as well. I encourage you to do that too, but something extra for you to think about and take advantage of. There are also a few quick service locations on board the Disney Wish for you to enjoy. Our favorite was probably the barbecue location up on the pool deck. You'll find chicken, brisket, pulled pork, sausage, mac and cheese, and other great options. There's also kind of like a Tex-Mex that you can take advantage of and eat. They also have hamburgers and hot dogs. Really kind of like more of the kid-friendly, kids can easily identify these things and grab them, sit down and eat, and have you know, something really quick, not have to wait in a long line. You will find that there's not a lot of seating around there, so if it is kind of during that lunch rush, you might have to get your food and take it someplace else, maybe go sit back down on your pool chair, but there are other options there for you. We actually didn't spend much time at all in the buffet on this sailing, you know, which leads me into the next kind of question that we always see asked a lot, which is how busy was the ship? Now, on most Bahamian sailings, we see a lot of cruise ships are more crowded on port days, like in Nassau. It's visited a lot, and a lot of people tend to skip the port and stay on the ship. They want to try and take advantage of some of those amenities. So we found it to be moderately busy throughout the day. We did not get off the ship in Nassau. And there was still a line for the Aqua Mouse, and many of the venues were full for activities. So if you're looking for a cruise with less people and more relaxation, we are always going to suggest you do some of the, you know, legacy ships, some of the longer sailings, the Caribbean sailings. If you're looking to have that warm sunshine all the time, that's what you're going to want to take advantage of. And when I say activities too, these are things like we went down to do trivia, and in the Bayou Lounge, all of the tables were taken, all of the seats at the bar were taken, people were standing up, so it does get busy. And even on a port day where you think people are getting off the ship, so there should be less people, it should be easy, this was not the case. It was still very, very busy. Now, I think something that's really great about Disney is the characters, right? You can meet characters without having to wait in a long line. And throughout this cruise, though, we only waited once for a character. That was longer than 5 to 10 minutes, and that was Elsa in the Arendelle restaurant. Most of the characters were quick and still took time to meet and greet with us kind of one-on-one, which is really great. That is something that you don't necessarily always get in the park. So this is something that we love about Disney Cruise Line too. You know, that you're not sweating out in the heat. You're not running from park to park or from ride to ride or character to character. On the ship, everything is contained. It's really easy to navigate, and it's really, really easy to do. We also hear a lot of people complaining about how busy the buffet is throughout the cruise. But again, I mean, Disney does give you a lot of alternatives to take advantage of, and I think sometimes people just don't maybe want to take the time to sit down in the main dining room or visit the quick service locations or even do room service. But those other options are there. And if you're looking for that less busy hustle bustle, definitely do the main dining room. We did it for breakfast the one day in 1923, and it was just really fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about entertainment, because this one was kind of a shocker for us. Disney Cruise Line is well known for their Broadway-style theater shows on board, and is probably the only cruise line where we will sit down for shows again and again. Even if we've seen them before in the past, like, we have no problem sitting down and rewatching those same shows time and time again. Frozen and Aladdin are probably our favorites, but we will routinely skip other musicals and Broadway-style shows on other cruise lines because I think they just don't necessarily always resonate with us. We don't connect with them the same way, so I think that's kind of part of that draw for Disney, right? And the Disney Wish is really no exception. However, this was probably the one thing that changed from the first cruise to this cruise that did not go very well. And I don't know if maybe like the main actors took the week off while we were there, or maybe they were rotating in some newbies, but we found that the shows to be quite awful for this one. The leads just didn't seem to be really great actors, nor were they very good singers, which is really important, I think, especially for Disney on the ships. Like, they have to be both really great actors and fantastic singers. And no doubt they did their absolute best. I'm not trying to shame them on anything like that. Just in comparison to the previous shows that we've done, especially on the Wish, for the inaugural sailing, which those shows were really fantastic. We loved them. Coming back to the Wish and watching these, they were not very good. But seriously though, the shows are really, really fantastic. And I don't want to take anything away from that on Disney. I truly mean that. They were great. But in our experience for this cruise, wasn't good. Now, another big thing that has changed with Disney Wish from the legacy ships is the layout. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the video that, you know, the Disney Wish, while it is a little bit larger, the biggest change from those previous 4 ships is not necessarily the size, even though it is a little bit larger, it's the overall layout. On the previous ships, the adult-only lounges and entertainment were together. So think of it like a little compound, right? You kind of get funneled into the adult-only area, and you go from one lounge to the next, and they're all kind of connected. I think on the Fantasy, they were at the back of the ship. On the Magic, they were at the front of the ship. They were all always together, and it was really easy for adults looking to escape the kids to find that haven in those areas. Now, listen, I know it's Disney. We all know it's Disney. We all expect there to be children. But after 9 o'clock, when it is adult-only time, in those areas, it would be nice to not see kids. I always like to say that because we don't have any problem, you know, standing in line with the kiddos, waiting to meet the characters, or up on the pool deck, everybody's running around having a great time. This cruise is for them as well. After 9 o'clock, it would just be nice if we didn't see them. Probably one of the biggest things that we've seen people kind of talk about when it comes to the Disney Wish is this change. And on the Wish, they have broken all of those lounges up, making it more difficult for the adult-only shows and entertainment to exist and happen. So a great example of this is, I think it was maybe like the 3rd night of the cruise. We were in for, I think it was Match Your Mate, which is 18 and over. This is after 9 o'clock. No kids are allowed. But because the venue is located in Luna, which is right off of the main atrium, where the characters are meeting, and it's really easy to be accessed by kids, the show would have to stop because they would see kids coming in, and they can't continue the show while there are children in there. So it is a little frustrating when they kind of have to break up the pace of the show because, you know, kids are coming in. We never, I don't think, ever saw that happen when those lounge areas or those clubs were kind of all in their own distinct areas, compounds on the ship. So that was a kind of a big change and something that I think kind of really speaks to where the Wish and probably the Treasure and future Disney ships are going to be heading, which is to really focus more on their families and leave the legacy ships more towards the adults without kids. And I know, like I said already, people are going to be like, well, it's Disney and you should expect the kids and blah, blah, blah. And you're absolutely correct. I'm not fighting you on that by any means. So I have no problem with that. We expect to see the kids. It's great to see the kids interacting with the characters. After 9 o'clock, it's for us, right? In those adult-only areas. So that's all I'm asking for. And I think that we saw that even with parents who had kids. They were frustrated. Because, like, it's their adult time. It's not them and their kids' time, you know. At any time during this cruise, I feel like we see more activities, entertainers, different things going on than any other cruise line as far as both port days and sea days for kids and adults and families to do all together, which is really great. From drawing to arts and crafts, trivias, like there are a lot of things going on that both kids and adults alike can take advantage of and do. So actually, I think one of my favorite things that I did on this sailing was learn to draw BB-8. Did I draw BB-8 very well? Of course not. But it was still kind of fun to sit down and, you know, make my attempt. You know, even as an adult, without kids on a Disney cruise, you can have a lot of fun. And I always like to make sure that people know that, that even though there were some things on this cruise that we didn't really enjoy, we had a fantastic time on this cruise overall. We don't typically tend to spend a lot of time in the kind of family pool areas, especially on like larger ships. With Royal Caribbean, we'll be spending our time in the adult-only area. On the Fantasy, on the Magic, we've spent our time on the adult-only area with On the Ship. So for this cruise, we didn't spend that much time because the adult-only pool area for the Wish isn't very big. There's not a lot of space to kind of lounge and relax. But we did get in the pool a little bit when we were in Nassau because there was nobody there first thing in the morning, which was really nice. And we were able to just kind of relax and hang out for maybe like an hour or so. And then we went off and did some activities that were going on throughout the ship. If you're an adult and want a better adult experience with Disney, then what I would recommend is that you choose something like the Fantasy or the Magic, and maybe even the Dream. We're going to be taking our first Dream cruise, our first Disney Dream cruise in September, and we're super excited about it. So, but both have a much larger adult-only area that makes a little bit more sense than the Wish does. And the adult-only areas are all together. So it's easy to get from one event to the next. And for those late night things, when some of those kids are up and running around, they're not normally going to make their way into those areas. I said this, we absolutely love Disney Cruise Line, so please don't roast me. But, and we have no expectation that kids shouldn't be there or shouldn't be having a great time. It's Disney. Kids will be everywhere, no matter what. But on the older ships, I think it's just a little bit easier for them to manage where those kids are at, in where they shouldn't be after, let's say, 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So while the Wish is a beautiful state-of-the-art ship that offers really great entertainment and excellent food and all around is a lot of fun, I don't think that we will ever sail on the Wish again unless we are there to capture a wedding, shout out or shameless plug for JTR Media. It's really going to be a cruise that you will have a fantastic time no matter what. So just keep that in mind. That also this is a review based on our own experiences, and our experiences could be different and probably are very different than your own. So our first cruise on the Wish was really not that great. But when we came back, we gave it another try, which I think is really important, and we had a really great time, even though it's not something we will do again in the future. But hey, there's lots of options out there, and that's what makes cruising so great. So let us know what you think about Disney Cruise Line and all of the new adventures coming to the sea. We hope that you found this video useful, so please share it with a friend, and when you're ready to book your next Disney cruise, head on over to goldgellgetaways.com, and we will see you all in the next one.